I don't think it was until I was 20 years old when I first experimented with drugs. Hey guys, how you doing? So, I decided today I would do a little bit of like story time. Something I've had questions about a lot is my sobriety and why I decided to get sober at the age of 21. So going back to whenever I was younger, I took my first drink at the age of 12, and ever since then I became like obsessed with like the troubled kind of lifestyle, always being grounded, always getting into trouble. I never partied like any of the other kids. It was always taking things too drastically, getting into trouble, and the cycle just continued. The first time I got arrested, I believe I was 14 or 15 years old, and I was at a friend's house. We were accused of like, well, I was going to a friend's house and we were accused of like breaking into entry. I don't even believe I was in high school yet. My parents had to come pick me up at like 3 or 4 in the morning. I was always with older kids. If I was in grade school, I was always with the high school kids. If I was in high school, I was with the college kids. That's how it was. Growing up was difficult for me because I could never relate to people my age. I didn't party like people my age. I remember going into high school and being at sporting camps and talking to some of the girls that were going to attend the same high school I was. And I always brought the conversations back to like, oh yeah, I can't wait to party and drink and do this. Like, do you guys do that? And they would say, yeah, no, I don't think I'm gonna drink until like later on in high school. And I was like, wow, this is gonna be great, you know? Like, I didn't relate to anyone my age. So I was a freshman in high school, and I basically just hung out with juniors and seniors because they were doing what I wanted to do. College just escalated from there. I got further into my drinking career and I started working at bars, and that's when things really took off because I prioritized working in these bars rather than focusing on school and my studies. Growing up, I was always struggling in school. I actually have attention deficit disorder, so it's always been difficult for me to like concentrate and stay organized and all of that. But then adding like partying all the time and having that as my first priority definitely made school and my other responsibilities a lot more difficult to handle. I remember being younger and my friends' parents never really wanted their kids to hang around me because they thought I was wild, and I would build up these resentments like against their families or, you know, whoever it was, these parents like trying to keep their kids away from me. And over the years it just built up like more and more anger. I didn't understand that I was the problem. I thought that everyone else was the problem, and I just wanted to do what I wanted to do. So when I started working at bars and stuff, that's when it escalated. And like I said, I would prioritize that over school. And, you know, like, let's talk about school. So, you know, when you graduate from high school, you already have applied for colleges and you know where you want to go, and like you might not have an exact idea of what you want to do yet. You could be undecided, but the only thing I wanted to do was go out and socialize and party with friends. Like, that was the main thing I thought of when I thought of college. I didn't really have many friends in high school. I just couldn't relate to a lot of people, and so I made a lot of friends working at these bars, and we all had things in common. You know, we all liked to socialize, we all liked to party. When it came to school, I liked to hang out with people that would prioritize the partying and the socializing before other responsibilities, because it made me feel like less of a shitty person, because I know I wasn't prioritizing anything besides my partying. Everyone was going away to all these schools, you know, they were doing their internships and stuff. And I went to a community college around here for 2 years, got my associates, finally went to university, and ended up dropping out my first semester. I dropped out my first semester, started working at the bar full time. It was a really stressful point in my life, because I really didn't know what I was gonna do. And here I was on social media, seeing everyone post these things about what their careers, you know, what their career is gonna be, and their internships, and, you know, all these fun things these kids were doing away at college. In the back of my mind, I knew deep down that it would be a huge riot if I went away to school, because I knew what my partying was like. So here I am working at these bars, and everyone around me is getting their degrees. You know, I don't even think I was a senior yet at the time. I was still in my junior year, and my grades were all right. Like, they weren't great. I would have like B's and C's, and then, you know, like there were some classes that I didn't pass in college because I just didn't give a shit, you know? I would always blame it on someone else. I would always blame it on the teacher. I would blame it on, well, I'm not good at that subject, but really, like, I wasn't trying, because I was putting all my effort and time into, like, my partying. I just wasn't trying the best, as good as I could in school. I wasn't doing it. I didn't care. I was 20 years old when I first experimented with drugs. I was at a bar, and one of my friends had cocaine with her, and she asked me, you know, first she said, I don't do this all the time, but I have this on me. Like, do you mind if I do it? And I was like, no, like, whatever. Like, I had never really gotten into drugs or, like, thought much about it. I mean, I'd smoked weed here and there, but I was never really a smoker or anything. So I ended up doing the cocaine with her. I did it about 2 or 3 times that night with her, and I stayed away from that stuff for, I don't know, maybe a few months or so. And it wasn't until months down the road, I remember it was sometime in the summer, and, you know, we were drinking like 4 or 5 times a week. There was always something going on. I mean, it didn't matter what mood. I could be happy, sad, angry. I wanted to drink. I had the addict's behavior, you know. I was very selfish. Wanted to do what I wanted to do, when I wanted to do it, where I wanted to do it. And if you were going to be in my way, then I wanted nothing to do with you. And I would make your life hell. It's basically how it went. I didn't really have any relationship with my family at all because of my drinking and using. And I'm grateful that today we have a really close bond. They trust me now. Anyway, so yeah, I didn't experiment back with drugs again until several months later. That's when I started doing coke a lot. I was doing coke, I was drinking. I woke up, it was a Monday morning, and I was with a friend, and I decided that it was time for me to get clean. I didn't know too much about the sober life because I had been drinking ever since I was like 12 years old, even though it wasn't like heavy drinking when I was younger, you know, like we would do a sip here and there. And then, like, as the years went on, then it just got worse and worse and worse, and that became like my number one thing that I wanted to do. I had cocaine blues, which that's where you're coming off of cocaine and you're so depressed, like you just don't see any light at the end of the tunnel. Like you feel like complete shit and you don't think you're ever gonna feel better again. And that's how I was feeling. So I'm very forgetful, like very forgetful. There were so many times where I'd go out drinking and like I would do something stupid, you know, like wreck my car, drinking and driving. I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna drink again or whatever. And a week or two later, you know, I couldn't make it that long. A week or two would go by and I'd be right back where I was again. Something would happen and I would blame it on, like, I remember one time I had poison ivy and I wrecked my car. I blamed it on the antibiotics that I was on for my poison ivy. I was like, well, you know, I was fine to drive, but the medicine must have, you know, not mixed well with the alcohol or something. So it was never my fault, like anything I ever did. I remember it was actually around 9/11 and it was 2017, so it was 2 years ago, and I decided that I wanted to get clean. So I made it, I think, to like 30 days sober, and I just kept going and going. I didn't have any like sober friends or anything. All my friends went out and they drank and they partied. What's up? I hope you guys are all doing good. I wish you the best. If we haven't spoken a while, I hope you're doing good. We had some fun times out there. I couldn't handle it. You know, a few months went by and I think I had about 6, almost 7 months sobriety, and I had an injury. I had to go to the hospital a few times because of it, and what do you know? I'm prescribed opiates now. So now I'm introduced to painkillers. And I was never a pill popper before or anything, but you know, I'm an addict and it doesn't matter if it's alcohol, if it's cocaine, if it's pills, weed, heroin, anything. If it's mood altering, that's what an addict fiends for. Now I am addicted to opiates and I'm also trying to stay sober. So, like, what do? How do you take painkillers as prescribed? Don't ask me because I don't know. I know I can't take painkillers as prescribed. So, you know, maybe like the first week or so, I think on the bottle it says you can take them like every 4 to 6 hours, I guess. So I tried taking them every 4 to 6 hours. The pain that I was in, though, was some of the worst pain I've ever experienced in my whole entire life. I couldn't do anything in my daily routine because of the pain that I was in. So I will say that has a lot to do with me misusing and abusing the drug. The difference with misusing and abusing is misusing would be, okay, so you have some old painkillers in your pantry and you're gonna take it because you have a severe migraine, or maybe you pulled a muscle in your back, so you go into those old painkillers and you take one as needed for the pain. Abusing them is taking them to like get that euphoria, that high. After misusing them, I definitely started abusing them, and it got to the point where I couldn't get through the day without my painkillers. I remember I would go to school and I'd be nodding off in class. My friends and family were really worried about me. I knew that if I didn't tell someone about this habit that I had, I wouldn't call it a habit, this addiction. And the problem that I had at the time, because I hadn't relapsed back on alcohol yet. So here I am, trying to stay sober, misusing the drug, then finally abused it, and boom, that's a relapse. So I relapsed on these painkillers. I ended up talking to someone about it, and I was running out of prescriptions. I had several prescriptions that I had gotten into. Some I had gotten from doctors, some I had gotten from old scripts that were in the house, bar regulars. And so, I'm starting to run out, and I don't know what to do. So my boyfriend and I were actually about to leave for Mexico around the time that year, and I was like, well, I want to be clean in Mexico. I don't want to take these with me. So I remember we were in the airport, and I had a handful of Percocets, and I took about 3, and then I had a 4th one. I had that one in my pocket still at the airport, so I had to hurry up and take that because we're about to go through security. And I was so freaking high. I mean, I could not even walk barely. I couldn't talk. I could not even keep my eyes open. I was falling asleep, standing up, waiting in line to get our bags checked. And it was a really dark place in my life then. So anyways, it wasn't Mexico. We were actually going to Key West. So we're going to Key West. My boyfriend didn't drink or anything like that, and he thought it was an attractive quality that I was sober. So we're in Key West. I couldn't take it anymore. We're walking down Duval Street, and I was like, I need to go to a bar now. And he's holding my hand, and he's like, no, you're fine. Just take a few deep breaths. So then I tell myself, I'm like, okay, maybe take a few hours to yourself, and if you still want to drink in a few hours, then go drink. We're walking down the streets, and there's this like pool party bar type thing, and I didn't take those few hours to myself. I decided to go straight to the bar and get a drink, and he was furious with me. He was really mad.